Good afternoon, saints. Good afternoon, sinners. I like that little catchphrase. My pastor always says that at the beginning of every service. Today, I want to continue part of what I made on one of my last videos where I was talking about a badass saint. And you know what? There are quite a few of them, actually. Saints that had these ways about them, these badass attitudes. And by this, I mean badass in a good way. Today, we're talking about Saint Francis of God knows what's Saint Francis of Assisi. We're also going to give a brief mention, because I think she deserves it, brief mention of his little sidekick, who was Saint Clare of Assisi. These were Italian saints, and you know, I think just about everybody has heard of Saint Francis, but what not everyone has heard of is some of the badass things he did. Everyone knows that, you know, he was born from a wealthy family. Everybody knows he had a dad that treated him like shit and was, you know, kind of abusive. Just about everyone knows that Saint Francis was known for, you know, more or less the restoration of the church. You know, he basically helped out the church a friggin' ton, which is, you know, more or less how he got his name and why his name's so widely known, especially in the Catholic Church. Well, Saint Francis actually did some dope shit that, like, people in today's society would be like, holy moly, like, that was really said about him? Like, you're like, some of this stuff, you know, actually might knock your socks off. I'm not gonna lie. Stuff people don't really know about Saint Francis is that he actually had followers of his own. A lot of people don't know that. He actually had 11 followers, and Saint Francis would be the 12th. So that means, like, remember, you know, Jesus had 12 followers. Saint Francis had 11. So there would have been 13 people total in Jesus' group. But throughout the Bible, there are certain numbers that are very prevalent. One of those numbers is the number 12. And actually, I'd say it's probably, like, I might almost want to say that it is the most prominent number in the book, is the number 12. And it's interesting that he had 11 followers, which would mean he made up his group of 12 in total. Now, the thing that also makes this interesting is that Saint Francis, in his time period, was actually often compared to Christ himself. Now, keep in mind, he was a follower of Christ. He never claimed to be Christ. But he displayed these things about himself that, like, kind of made him Christ-like. And this is where it's going to get into his, you know, little girlfriend, Claire. Wasn't really his girlfriend, at least not in that way, in the way that we think of it today, but they were actually very fond of each other. They were kind of like besties. And something that, you know, if you waited this long into the video, you deserve to know. You know, there was a display of superpowers it talks about that. They described it as a Holy Spirit fire, or surrounded with spirit, or surrounded with holy fire, depending on where you're getting your source, you know. But pretty much it's all a similar explanation. But they were basically caught in the forest alone. They went off to the forest alone and were followed. I already know where you're going with your pervert mind, but that's not where it went. When they were found, they were actually in, like, a deep conversation going back and forth. And surrounding them was this spirit flame, or, like, it says that it's not fire, but it is fire. Like, it's kind of interesting how it describes it, you know, kind of like what we would think of today as an aura, or like Dragon Ball Z, holy fire around them. You know, so if you interpret what this stuff talks about literally, it gets pretty freaking dope. Another thing a lot of people don't know about Saint Francis is that he came in direct contact with a seraphim, or a seraphim, which were these like crazy, like super ugly, holy angel, badass guys. Like, I'm sure you can find some art online if you want to know what a seraphim has been said to look like. But yeah, they're like kind of like crazy looking creatures. But they're also said to be angels, these seraphim. So, you know, it's just something to, you know, interesting that after Christ died, somebody else still came in contact with one of these creatures, these seraphim, these angels. Everybody already knows that Saint Francis was born of a wealthy family. Saint Francis also was a silk merchant. So he actually understood, you know, the nature of wealth. He had a full understanding of this, that to become wealthy, you don't work an hourly rate, like what I'm sure a lot of people did. You don't work at a flat rate. To become wealthy, you have to buy things and sell things. You have to learn to trade, or a trade. That's so common today where people say you have to learn a trade. That's a trade, like learning to carpentry, for example, like Jesus did. That's a trade, but that's also trading your skill set. To become wealthy, you have to learn to trade something. You could be trading silk, trading lumber, trading stocks, trading whatever. You got to trade something, and that's how you become wealthy. Plain and simple. That's the secret of wealth, that, you know, is kind of becoming common sense again, which is a good thing. Kind of a good thing. Good for some people, but is it going to be moral? That's the question. But that's trade aside. He could talk to animals. He was a freaking Dr. Dolittle. This Saint Francis that we're talking about was essentially a Dr. Dolittle. Now, could he quote unquote talk to animals? You know, that's to be argued. You know, if he can or can't actually talk to animals. But there are several accounts of him taming these wild beasts, which is a really interesting concept to, you know, get involved with. That this, you know, saint, you know, we typically think of these saints as these fair, like feeble kind of looking dudes that were just like these do-gooders, which they were. They were these do-gooders, but they were also freaking fit badasses. And that's not often talked about. It's not often portrayed in church. It's just talked about like, oh, this saint went out and helped churches, and this, you know, saint did this holy mission and fed these people. That's all you hear about, which is good. That's awesome. But they don't tell you the badass parts about these guys. Now, this is the last part of the video. And then this is what makes Saint Francis kind of take the cake and deserve a spot on my most badass saints list. So I'm going to have more videos coming of these badasses that have earned their place in our Christian faith. But this dude was, long story short, Francis was in a room with these Muslims, and there were these Muslim dudes that were kind of taking their holy test, and they were challenged to step into the fire. And if they would not be burned, then they were said to be, you know, chosen ones, or children of God, or saints, or whatever you want to call them. Superman, like Spider-Man, whatever. But was his God really there for him? And all the Muslim guys, they all declined. And then Francis was like, whoops, whatever, I got this. I'll step into the fire. I'll show you that my God is great. And the, whatever you call him, the guy, what do they call these guys? Sultan. Yeah, the Sultan rejected his offer. But the other guys that were like, you know, kind of in their training to become holy in their religion, they were like, nah, I ain't stepping in no fire. Think I'm crazy? No way, Jose. It's kind of where they were going with it, but Francis was ready to do it, but they declined his offer. And, you know, part of me wonders what would have happened if he did step in the fire. Would he have been saved? Because he was just ready to go. Anyway, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you like this whole segment on these badass saints. And yeah, I'll leave some more blessings for you guys down in the description. Make sure to check them out. There's also my family's eBay store link. And, you know, if you want some old, used, I don't want to call it junk, old, used treasures, quite frankly what we are. We're treasure hunters, part-time. You know, we both work full-time, but we like finding old stuff that was from the past that, you know, is a lot more valuable than what the person that's more or less throwing it out, you know, knows. Sometimes they find out when they run into me, but they just want to get rid of this stuff. So it's actually a really good thing that we're doing at Shelbrook Family Resale. We're finding these things from the past that would otherwise probably end up in a landfill, and we're just adding it to our, you know, catalog of the stuff that we have in our store. So make sure you check that out. If you have anything that you know, you can send me a message always. You know, if you see something you like, if you don't like the price, or you don't like one thing, or you have a question, feel free to shoot us. Thanks a lot for watching. God bless you for bearing it till the end, and see you next time. Thanks again.